Welcome to the program once again. Welcome back to the Canadian Tire Center, home of overtime heroics, courtesy of Checks Notes, Simon Benoit, overtime hero in back-to-back games. The feed to Domi, the goal himself, Nick Alberga calling him Simon Babior Benoit. It's a toast of the town. We got a lot to get to today, and Cyril Leader, the president of the Ottawa Senators, will join us live in the studio here in about 15 minutes' time. This is Friday, Civilian Fridays, we like to call it in the chat, and that means Brian Burke is aboard towards the bottom of the hour. In the meantime, Zach Phillips, I got a beef. I want to start off by complaining about something because I feel, on behalf of hockey fans everywhere, that we were deprived of something great last night. It's one of my favorite things in overtime hockey, and Leafs fans deprived us of all of it. Zach, you know what I really wish happened last night?
No, you told me that you had a problem with this earlier today, and I've been trying to think all day what it could be. I still don't know.
I'm trying to find a diplomatic way of telling Maple Leafs fans to stay away, because they wrecked a very cool thing, one of my favorite things in playoffs last night. So there was about probably 80-20 Sens fans to Leafs fans at the CTC last night. Okay? I thought it was going to be more. Like, good on Ottawa Senators fans. They kept the majority of Leafs fans out of the building. But what we got deprived of is one of my favorite things in all of sports. So Benoit scores the goal, and all the Leafs fans here, obviously, pop like the cork out of a champagne bottle, right? And it's pretty loud, right? It's pretty loud in the building, considering there's about only 20% Leafs fans. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite things, Zach, is playoffs. The road team scores in overtime. The place goes deafeningly silent, and all you hear is the celebration on the ice. Only the players celebrated, because everybody in the stands have that stunned silence as they start to make a beeline for the exits. I love that moment. Normally when you see goals, it's a big eruption and all that, but on the road in the playoffs, it is silence. Nobody says a word. It is like eerily quiet, and all you hear are the F&A boys from everybody on the ice. And we were deprived of that last night because there are about 20% Leafs fans here at the CTC. You have a thought on that one, Zach? I'll lob that one your way. I love seeing that in the playoffs from any team. It doesn't matter. The OT the OT goal by the visiting team.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. The moment is cool. I think it's kind of cool, or it's something that you get to experience a lot when the Stanley Cup is won on the road, and every time the player lifts the cup and they're like, woo, that's the only thing you hear.
And it echoes. Like, it echoes through the barn, right?
But you know what? As a Leafs fan, I love it that the Leafs fans were in there and loud during that OT winner, because they tried to keep us out. They did a pretty good job of keeping us out. But no matter what you do, we're still loud, and we're still going to be in your building. So kudos to the Leafs fans that were there and stuck around. So I mean, I'm going to give them a round of applause, but I get what you're saying.
I just love the visual. Anyway, the Toronto Maple Leafs grab a commanding 3-0 lead over the Ottawa Senators. Game 4 tomorrow, back here at the Canadian Tire Center. So that was what I watched last night. I got back to the hotel to catch the end of the St. Louis-Winnipeg game. Don't worry, we're going to get into the impending suspension here with Hagel on Barkov. Didn't get a chance to watch any of that game, and then caught pretty much about half of the Minnesota-Vegas game, and we'll get to that coming up in a couple of moments as well. But that Maple Leafs game yesterday, so a couple of things stand out. The Marner pass. Pass to Austin Matthews, like, again, like I was sitting beside Alberga, and I'm like, dude, that's a $14 million pass. How many guys can make that pass? Like, seriously, if you're Brad Treliving, you're watching that, and you're not saying to yourself, maybe we do give him all of the money. It is one of the most elite plays, and the thing is, it happened so suddenly, and it seemed like forever that Ullmark was looking to the right side of him while the puck was on Austin Matthews' stick. And that's only made possible by, like, there's probably only about 10 or 15 players that can maybe not even that much, that can make that pass that quickly and have that kind of awareness and make it perfectly in the NHL. Marner just happens to be one of those guys, Zach Phillips. Marner just happens to be one of those guys.
Yeah, that was a pretty disgusting pass. We were watching at Greta last night, and one of the guys beside me when that was when that pass went out to Matthews, and he scores. Everyone celebrates, and then as it kind of calms down a little bit, and we're watching the replay, he goes, "That's the best pass he's made since the Four Nations OT winner." I was like, all right, calm down. But I get it. Like that. Part of it was maybe a slow read by Ullmark, watching the play develop and then going across. But it's Marner, like, not even moving to make that pass go. It's the deception on that, and then not only to do it so discreetly and quickly, but to have it tape to tape like that to your best goal scorer who's backdoor looking at an empty net. It's just perfect from start to finish. The read, the play, the deception, all of it. It was an amazing pass. I mean, have you seen, by the way, I should have grabbed this, but I saw like a screen grab of the camera corner in the corner of Ullmark looking over his shoulder, and Matthews has already shot the puck.
But that's it. Like, but that's where like a screen cap is gonna really not tell the story, because that thing happened so fast. That happened so incredibly quickly. I know it's just sort of look. We all know what's happened to Linus Ullmark in pressure situations. Always become a stereotype. But like, I don't know that I'm gonna fault him on that one. Like, that happens so suddenly, so quickly. Find me any other goalie that's going to have that kind of awareness that quickly.
Yeah, I don't blame him on that one. It is just a funny grab. Like, it kind of also just lays out like exactly what you're saying, how quickly that play did develop. You know, it doesn't tell that full story because there's probably people looking at it being like, look at this guy, he had no idea where the puck was.
Yeah.
It was pretty hard to. Watching that in real time, it was even hard to kind of comprehend how quickly that thing went bang bang onto Matthews sticking in the back of the net. So, yeah, I don't blame Ullmark for that.
A fairly creative chant we heard in the building yesterday, Matthews balding, which isn't one that I would expect. And it's funny. It kind of got you and me on a little bit of a goose chase this morning, trying to find, and this would have been like, I don't know, like 1984, the Tom Laidlaw hit on Al Iafrate of the Toronto Maple Leafs in a game against the New York Rangers at MSG. Like, it's one of the most bone-crunching body checks you've ever seen. Laidlaw sort of not just hits him, but sort of rides him along the boards up almost onto the bench and into the stanchion. And what's interesting about that, when I heard the Matthews balding chants last night, and I don't know about you, but I was kind of expecting Matthews after he scored that goal to put his finger up to his lips. But he didn't. He just thought he just was going to ignore the whole thing. But if you look at that Laidlaw Iafrate hit, which has, as we found out, vanished from the internet. It doesn't exist anywhere. We used to see that hit on the regular all over the place, but it has now somehow vanished. Al Iafrate was always, as I was told by his teammates then, sensitive about premature balding. And if you look at the hit, it is a bone-crunching body check. We got to find this. And his helmet pops off, and it's full yard sale. And as people have pointed out to me, watch what Iafrate does. The first thing he does is he reaches to put his helmet back on because he was sensitive about balding early. That's where my mind first went. But what did you think of the Matthews balding chants last night at the CTC?
I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, they did the Brady sucks chants in Toronto, and Giroux talked about it, and he's like, what I was thinking about too here is Giroux said, you know, they don't say Brady sucks if he actually sucks. Like they're not going to do that.
100%.
But I was thinking about that when they're doing the balding one. I'm like, the same rule does not apply. They're saying he's balding because he's balding. Like, it is what it is. There's no way around that one. He is. I don't know. It's funny. It's some low hanging fruit there, but I had a laugh the first time that I heard and realized what they were doing.
He's got to wear like a David Lee Roth wig for the next warm up. Like Saturday, he should just have like the long hair wig underneath the helmet for warm up on Saturday. Or something
the McKinnon,
like that.
Crosby, Tim Hortons commercial. Like,
yes, that's even better. Yes, that's even better. All right, Maple Leafs grab a 3-0 series lead in this one. Let's get to what's coming up on the program today. Daily Outline presented and powered by our friends and partners at FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, that is FanDuel. And coming up on the program today, a couple of big guests. One of them is going to join us here coming up in a couple of minutes, and that is the president of the Ottawa Senators, Cyril Leader, who's been with the organization a couple of different times, was there at the beginning. And it is interesting. You watch the evolution of a franchise, and from then to now. And one of the conversations we had with Ian Mendez yesterday was sort of where you're nestled right in between Montreal and Toronto, and how you position a team when you're nestled in between these two markets. So we'll talk to Cyril Leader about that. Brian Brook joins at the bottom of the hour. It is Civilian Fridays, as we like to say. We'll talk about the Maple Leafs. We'll talk about the Hagel hit and impending suspension. He has a meeting with the DOPS today, and don't look now. But going into this series, we said, we know the games will be good, but I don't know anyone who said, Zach, Vegas's big problem is they will not have any kind of response or any answer for Kaprizov and Boldy. That has been the combo of the playoffs. Like, they are doing, and we'll all think about that pass in game 2, the beautiful saucer pass from Kaprizov to Boldy, but do you not get the impression that right now in that series, Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy are doing whatever they want to do? Like, it's got to be one of the best feelings in the world. And it's got to be, conversely, one of the most frustrating feelings in the world as a player when you lose this ability. But while you have it, and that ability is this, your head says you want to do something, and your body says, okay, we can do that. It comes a point in your career where that stops happening. Because, look at veteran players on their way out, like I'm sure like Max Pacioretty, for example, for the Maple Leafs, his head is saying, I want to do this, 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 and this. And your body's like, we can't do that anymore. That's got to be frustrating. But right now, the battery of Boldy and Kaprizov has hit their stride, and Vegas can do nothing about it so far. The Minnesota Wild, and I watched about half of that game last night getting back from the rink. The Minnesota Wild grabbed a 2-1 series lead in that one. First of all, the games are good. But, man, Minnesota's doing a job here on Vegas, and who saw that coming?
Well, I think it was yesterday you already handed out the Conn Smythe, right? To Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah, to
Kaprizov.
That's it, done. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
done. Yeah, the voting's over.
Yeah, it's over.
After 2 games.
Yeah, no, in all seriousness, I do agree. It's crazy. Like, you see, that's one thing watching with Kaprizov and the way that he's playing in that series and affecting that series. He has the wingman now in Boldy. Like, he's got the guy to match alongside of him what he wants to do, where you watch how creative and physically dominant Kaprizov is and the skill set to go with it. But it's just like he does that, and before I feel like we've seen these moments where he's peaked up, especially maybe in the playoffs there, and it's like Minnesota doesn't have the gunslingers to be alongside of him to complement that, and I feel like that's kind of maybe where they've fallen short. Matt Boldy right there, like, this guy is the perfect Robin to Batman, if you even want to call it that. Like, I mean, it's like 1A, 1B at that point. It's not even like a wingman really with Matt Boldy, but he's got somebody to go alongside of him and help him bring that. Those two have been electric. Like, I'll be honest with you. I'm watching a lot more of the Leaf stuff and then doing the post-game show, so I'm trying to watch the recaps and catch up on the highlights and, the game breakdowns the next day for these Wilds games. But everything you see here, Jeff, it's like, there's Kaprizov and Boldy. Oh, the Wild had a chance. There's Kaprizov and Boldy.
And Boldy.
It's unavoidable at this point.
Foligno was really good in that one as well. We're going to get to that in a couple of seconds here. I don't even know what to make of this. Nick Cousins and Anthony Stolarz in the warm-up. I understand that there is a heightened sensitivity, and I guess there probably always has been in hockey at a lot of different levels, about shenanigans between teams in the warm-up. But that is the biggest nothing burger I've ever seen in my life.
I think you're wrong.
This is
I
not
think
like
Nick
this
Cousins
is not like
deserves to be in jail.
Montreal, Philadelphia, Ed Hospodar, and Claude Lemieux. Like, this is not that. This is not anything close. I know they don't want any interaction between the two teams. I get it. But when I first started snooping around about this, the first thing that someone said to me was, "Oh, so someone fired pucks at Stolars," and I thought,
Yeah.
well, first of all, how did I miss that? Because I was here for warm up, like, it didn't seem like anything happened. And then when Elliot put out the video, I was like, this is the biggest bit of nothing I've seen in forever. Again, you understand where the league has to have a look at this, but this is like less than zero. This is like a 2-minute conversation. Yeah, there's nothing here, but guys, really make sure you don't do anything, okay?
So launching an investigation is the most insane way to frame that one, in my opinion, to start. Launching an
Yeah.
investigation. Here's the video.
Yes.
Investigation launched and closed. Done. That's
Yeah.
it. I want to ask you this, though, because I've been thinking about this one, trying to figure out. I'm watching Sens fans have, like, an implosion online today in reaction to this, and I actually kind of understand why. I wonder, and I don't know if maybe this is just my mind going to this place at this point and I'm getting all pumped up, but I wonder if this has to do with what the series score is currently at and them just saying, let's not do anything dumb or open the
maybe.
door for anything dumb for
Don't
Saturday
chum the
night.
waters. Yeah.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
just
We'll
let's
see.
let's nip this in the bud right now. Shut it down. Not let this go any further before we get to that game on Saturday. No matter what happens, then.
I've always been taught in my career, Zach, don't make important people wait. Let's get right to our premier guest here on the program this afternoon. Brought to you by a presentation of JP Weisers. JP Weisers, proudly Canadian, celebrates the moment with a limited edition Stanley Cup bottle, the perfect match for you and your game night crew because the playoffs are best enjoyed with great whiskey and good company. Now your friends can lift the Stanley Cup bottle for Canada with JP Weisers, the official whiskey of the NHL. For 165 years, JP Weisers has been woven into the fabric of Canadian celebrations, bringing people together to raise a glass to the passion and pride that fuel Canada's game. He is the president of the Ottawa Senators. He is Mr. Cyril Leader, and he joins me on the program. Thanks so much for popping by today.
For having me, Jeff. Great to be here.
The pleasure is all mine having you aboard. We were just talking about, and I don't even know if you can comment on it, even though it seems like really nothing. And when you consider things that have happened in warm-up before, we're just talking about the Nick Cousins situation with Anthony Stolars, which, as people have pointed out online, maybe the friendliest thing we've ever seen Nick Cousins do, the opposite of anything nefarious. I don't know if you can comment on it, but we just looked at this and kind of went, I don't think there's anything close to a there.
Yeah, I did. I mean, couldn't really tell. I didn't get much of a clip that I could see, but didn't look like a whole lot there, to be honest.
Yeah. I was talking to Ian Mendez on the program yesterday, and, one of the interesting things that we sort of got to were how this team is sort of nestled between Montreal and Toronto, right in that middle ground here. And I'm always curious how the Ottawa Senators have reached out over the border to French Canadian hockey fans. How big of an initiative has that been for the Ottawa Senators? Because as much as is the Battle of Ontario, there's a big piece of Quebec here too.
Yeah, I mean, we right on the border, which separates our province from Quebec. Here in Ottawa, it's just a river.
Mhm.
So that's a much you mentioned a much more important initiative for us here is to make inroads with our fan base in Western Quebec, and particularly in the Outaouais and in Gatineau. And it's been a big lift. There is a heavy lift, and we're seeing some success there. Really led by Michael Andlauer, who was born in France, raised in Montreal, fluently bilingual. And Michael, one of the first mandates was, this is not Ottawa, this is Ottawa Gatineau, and we need to treat it that way. And that's been our sort of mission here the last 18 months since Michael's become the owner.
This is a really interesting organization right now. We're wondering which was going to be the first team to emerge from that pack of three. That includes Detroit and Buffalo, and Ottawa got there first and distinguished themselves. And I always look at teams like this, and I don't know, maybe still I've been reading so much Winston Churchill lately that there's one quote that, when you guys finally clinched, and I had Michael on the program, Michael Andlauer, I couldn't help thinking about the one quote: "This is not the end. It's not the beginning of the end, but it is the end of the beginning."
Yeah.
Does it feel that way for this edition of the Sens?
It sure does. I think, the goal here never was to get into the playoffs or to beat the Red Wings and Sabres to the playoffs. The goal here is to win the Stanley Cup. And, Michael would talk about that. Certainly Steve Staios and Dave Poulin talk about that all the time, is that, that's the goal. And if this is the beginning of that journey, then that's great. And, got a lot of confidence in our hockey guys that they know what they're doing. They got a plan, and they're on the right track here. And we're building something special here in Ottawa.
How much of this in the organization's mind revolves around, and you could tell, he just shrugged it off and said, just bruises and regular things. We're in the playoffs here. How much does this revolve around Brady Tkachuk right now?
Brady's, he's more than just the straw that stirs the drink. He's the engine. He's the leader. So the team goes as Brady goes, and certainly he's not 100%. I think it's obvious to everybody, but 90% of Brady's better than just about 100% of everybody else in the league. So it's good to have him out there. He's been leading from the front. Got a big goal last night. Scored earlier in the series, and has been doing Brady things throughout the 3 games.
You've been with the Ottawa Senators now you're with the Ottawa Senators now. You were there right from the hop, and back in the mix now, and you've seen a lot of different leaders on this team. Yep. And I always think of Daniel Alfredsson. I got a real soft spot in my heart for Daniel Alfredsson.
As do I.
Where do you see sort of Brady Tkachuk in that sort of pantheon of leaders? Like, what qualities? Like, I'm always curious. Like, is there any overlap between like Brady Tkachuk and Daniel Alfredsson, or any Mike Fisher or whomever else?
Yeah, there's overlaps, but they're 2 different individuals. Certainly, some of the similarities I would say is they lead by example. So Daniel was more of just follow me, do as I do, not as I say type of guy. He's very active in the community, Daniel, as is Brady. We had our fan appreciation night here last week, and Brady left the game at the end of the second, I think. So when the game was over, he came out in flip-flops and shorts. Was the first guy on the ice to meet the fans, started signing autographs, and stayed on the ice till everybody else was gone. Then when he left the players' tunnel, fans went over there and throwing jerseys and hats at him for another hour. So that's the type, so he's got a lot of time for the community, for fans. I think that there's a couple of big similarities. Obviously, they play a different game. Daniel's more of a thinking game. Brady's going to go right through you. He's more physical, obviously. But, both very important to the organization, and the teams generally did as well as those 2 guys did as well. So when Brady's on his game, we're rolling. When Daniel was on his game, we were rolling. And I see that similarity for sure.
Since you've seen so much and been part of so much, when you hear the phrase Battle of Ontario, whether it's playoffs or just regular season, I was on with the Coming In Hawkeyes yesterday, Brent Wallace and Jason York, and I was like, one of the memories that stands out was that flu game. And it was like an Agatha Christie novel. Every time the lights flickered, a new player left the bench. So that was one of the ones that come back to my mind. When you hear Battle of Ontario, what are some of the things that come to your mind right away?
Oh, well, not much of it's good, to be honest. We haven't beat Toronto, and that's part of why there's such a good rivalry and why it's so intense for Senator fans. Is that that's kind of that dragon you have to slay at some point to actually get to where you want to get to. But I obviously remember the flu game. I remember looking across at the bench, and there was nobody in the penalty box, and there was 3 guys on the bench.
It was wild.
So we were down to eight skaters, I think, at that point. I obviously remember Darcy Tucker, God bless him, jumping into the Senators' bench for a fight.
More guts than brains.
Well, I don't. You said that. More guts than a sausage, I guess. But I remember the McCabe Chera fight, of course. I remember the Sundin stick in the crowd, Alfredsson fake stick in the crowd, Alfredsson's goal in overtime after crushing Tucker. And the one that pains me the most to remember is Ricard Pearson hitting Ty Domi into the boards, taking a 5-minute penalty in Game 6. We're up 3-2. We're up 2-0 in that game. Of course, they scored 2 goals on the 5-minute power play, and then they won that game and eventually won that series in 7 games. So.
I was talking a couple of seconds ago about you mentioned the fans. I've always maintained that perhaps the most creative fans and the most creative chants we've ever heard come from the Winnipeg Jets fans. They're wildly creative. And then I heard the Matthews Balding chant last night. I'm not going to ask you to comment on that specifically, but just a thought on Ottawa Senators fans. Like, what is distinctive about fans in the nation's capital?
Yeah, I think what I've seen over time is they're getting younger. So our fan base is getting a lot younger now, and they're very tech savvy. So we call it Sens Twitter. There is a group, and there's a following of that group that really follow the folks on X, I guess now, and they're passionate. You said they are creative. They'll say, come up with some good chance. And we've had some real interesting interactions with guys like Kevin Lee over the last few weeks on X to kind of help move some tickets. And so we think we have a unique fan base here. I would say they're young, obviously vested in their team. I think you're going to see a louder building on Saturday than you saw on Thursday, if that's possible. I think that's the way they will react. They won't shrug their shoulders. They'll say, let's go, let's get behind these guys. Let's push this team forward.
Another part of the conversation I had with Ian yesterday, the sensitivity about making sure there are enough young people in the building. I know there have been other NHL teams previous. I remember the Blackhawks actually, I believe, had conversations with Toronto. Or no, it was the other way around. Toronto's having conversations with Chicago about how do we make sure that we're always rejuvenating this group that one day are going to be season ticket holders. And the way you do that, like I went to a lot of games at Maple Leaf Gardens when I was a kid. Like I was dyed in the wool hockey fan since I was a kid, going to Toros games and Marlies and Maple Leafs. Grew up in the rink. How sensitive is your organization to knowing that we need to make sure there are enough young people in here, because one day that's our next wave of season ticket holder?
Yeah, we're very sensitive to that. It's comes out of a few different, I think, we call them strategies or initiatives that we take at our end. Obviously, you want to have that younger group coming, and I think a lot of the research would tell you that people start forming their allegiances and their team around the age of 10. So
is it 10?
It's fairly young. So so you're trying to get kids in the building when they're 6, they're 8, they're 10. That's when you can make a big impact on them and create a fan for life, if you will. The other thing is, we really believe that it's incumbent on us, both from a sport perspective as purveyors of hockey, but also from running our operation, that we want to create future fans, and that means getting more kids involved with playing hockey, whether it's boys or girls. So we've got a lot of initiatives in the community to grow the game, to get kids involved in playing, learn to skate programs. We're launching a program to go to 257 schools in Ottawa and Gatineau, where we're going to be delivering floorball equipment so kids can play inside. So, and we have a lot of games. We make the effort to play a lot of afternoon games, kid-friendly timing for the games. So we probably have more of those games at afternoons on Saturdays and Sundays than anybody else. And again, that's to give the parents and the kids an opportunity to come to those games and enjoy them.
This is a very wide open, wide brush question here. I'll let you take it in whatever direction you want. From then to now, from the beginnings of this organization to what we see now, what have you seen over the years? Like, what comes to mind? I mean, you were there.
Yeah, I was there in the beginning. We got the team. I was in Florida when John Ziegler awarded the team to Ottawa, and was there to help get the team launched in Ottawa in 1992. So I've seen a lot. What I think I've like to say is, I think the fan base and the importance of this team to the community has just continued to grow. And I know hockey's important in Toronto. I know it's important in Winnipeg. I know it's important in other cities, but it would be hard pressed for me to say that it could be any more important than it is right here in Ottawa, that hockey is really important to this community. The franchise has, as I said, I've seen a lot of good things with the franchise. And it's the players we talked about a bit that really impressed me. We've been fortunate that from the early days had guys like Daniel Alfredson and Chris Phillips, Chris Neal, Mike Fisher, Wade Redden. Those guys kind of laid the groundwork that anybody came in, they said, these guys are out in the community doing activities. I better darn well get out there and do it myself. So we've always had that support from the players and the coaches and the general managers of the organization.
Was there a moment where, let me take you guys back, you and Bruce knew, like, okay, we got this cinched?
No.
Was it a surprise? Because it was a shock.
No, I mean, cinched. I mean, the night before we actually got the franchise, Bruce was convinced we weren't going to get it, was wondering whether we should ask for a deferral to the next round. And Randy Sex and I were saying, no, Bruce, like, let us go to breakfast in the morning. We'll talk to some folks. And I had breakfast with the Knox family from from Buffalo. Randy was meeting with Barry Shankaro from Winnipeg. And this is early, and they said, you know what? Stay calm. Like, you guys you've done a good job. You got enough friends on the inside. Like, just stay calm. And lo and behold, we didn't know this, but the day before they'd already voted. So after we did the presentation, they'd voted and said it's Ottawa and Tampa. In fact, there was in the boardroom had all the names of the 10 cities that were bidding, and Ottawa and Tampa were circled. And one of our guys went in afterwards to pick up the equipment. It's Dave Saunders, who's a hockey player, went in there to pick up the equipment, and he saw it. And the security guard said, if you say anything, you got to swear you're not going to tell anybody.
No way.
And he was too afraid. He was his first week on the job, and he was afraid to tell anybody. He knew we were in, and Bruce thought we might not be. And so Randy and I had the breakfast, and we felt pretty good after that, but it was never cinched. We felt we had to stand out. We had to be better than everybody else because Ottawa wasn't really high. We didn't think on the list of cities that they really wanted to go to from a broadcast perspective. That we thought American teams would get a preference. And
when the book is written on this era of hockey, and I'll go to like expansion Vegas and expansion Seattle, I think one of the most interesting things and obvious things that has driven franchise value and expansion fee value is the different expansion rules now.
Yep.
You guys,
we had the worst.
You guys did it the old way.
We know ours were so bad they changed them the next year for Anaheim coming in. Was it?
Yeah,
Florida. Florida coming in next.
Yeah.
And they realized, wow, we made a mistake. It was too draconian for Ottawa and Tampa coming in. We got to change the rules.
I always think whenever through Seattle expansion, Vegas expansion, and I say to myself like, man, I feel so bad for what Ottawa had to go through.
Well, it was a curse and a blessing. I mean, we were so bad. We couldn't get out of last place. I think we were dead last 4 years in a row, which means you draft really high. Yeah. So that led to Wade Redden, Chris Phillips, Radek Bonk, Alexander Daigle. So it led to some really high draft picks, and sort of formed the foundation for our team in the early 2000s. That was so good.
We're going to let you go on this one because I know you're busy. What should we expect? You sort of touched on this a second ago. What should we expect Saturday? Like everyone is saying the right things in the room. We all know the stories about down 3 Cobb and Claude Giroux is telling the story about the Flyers and the Boston Bruins. What do we expect here on Saturday?
I expect you're going to see more of the same with more intensity, like right from our fans right through to our players. I think there's still a lot of fight left in this dog here. I don't think anybody's giving up, and I know our fans will try to be part of that, that message and that intensity, and trying to deliver that to our players, give them a little bit of extra boost. So we expect it to be really intense, and get a break or two. Things start turning our way, we think.
All right. Very good. Cyril, thanks so much. Much
pleasure.
Appreciated. Congratulations on what's been a successful season so far. Best of luck Saturday.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Cyril Leader is the president of the Ottawa Senators. Game 4, Maple Leafs and Ottawa Senators, of course, goes on Saturday. Going to get to Brian Burke here for our Brian Burke Fridays. Want to remind you of one of our presenters and sponsors, RV Easy. Your motorhome or travel trailer isn't just for getaways. It's also a moneymaker on wheels. Most RVs will sit parked in the driveway. With RV Easy, you can rent out your motorhome or travel trailer and earn over $20,000 this year. Founded, owned, and operated by Canadians, RV Easy takes care of everything, including full insurance coverage provided for every rental. And best of all, you choose when to rent and set your own pricing. List your RV for free today at rvezi.com. That's rvezi.com. RV Easy. Rent your RV, make money easy. And with that, we'll bring him on. He is our Friday staple. Civilian Fridays, as some people in the chat call it. The one and only Brian Burke joins me once again on the sheet. We're getting Burkey all hooked up here, and we'll get Brian aboard in a couple of moments. A couple of interesting things happening this evening. We'll go over this in a little more specifics coming up in a couple of moments, but going down 3 bagel is never a good thing. And sometimes for game 3, you start to see, I don't know if I want to call it desperation, but pretty big changes happening for hockey teams. The Edmonton Oilers will change goaltenders tonight. Calvin Pickard looks like he's starting tonight for the Oilers as they face off against the Los Angeles Kings. Kings lead this one to Cobb. The New Jersey Devils will welcome back a couple of players tonight, specifically 2 defensemen and maybe 3. Brendan Dillon available once again for service alongside Luke Hughes. And you wonder if, and it sounds like he's going to be a game-time decision, Jonas Siegenthaler will draw back into the lineup. You know, Siegenthaler is interesting. Beginning of the season, you could make the argument that the best defensive pair in the NHL, with all due respect to Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov with the Los Angeles Kings, all due respect, the best shutdown pair in the NHL for half, maybe 3/4 of the season until injuries became a mitigating factor here, was Jonas Siegenthaler and Jonathan Kovacevic. So it looks like Jonas Siegenthaler will at least be a game-time decision. And when your team's down 2-0, usually game-time decisions turn into he's playing tonight as the venue shifts to the Prudential Center and the New Jersey Devils facing off against Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina up 2-0 in this one. Washington Capitals facing off against the Montreal Canadiens. This one is back at the Bell Center, where I've made the point before. That has to be number one on everybody's bucket list. Whenever I get asked, what are the things I have to do as a hockey fan? What are some of the experiences I have to have? You have to go to a game, even better if it's a playoff game, best if it's a Saturday night, but you have to get to games in Montreal. There is nothing like it. 7:01, when the lights drop and Fix You hits. Zach's laughing because he's heard me say this all before. That is the experience, Zach, and you know it, that every hockey fan has to have. Tonight, Montreal facing off against Washington. The Caps lead this one 2-0.
Did you see as well that Gabe Landeskog has now been moved up to the second line alongside with Brock Nelson and Nichushkin? I feel like that would make you feel a little good inside.
Hands up, who's surprised?
Yeah, no. It was a matter of time, right? Like, he looked good there in the first game as well.
I know. But the thing is it's going to be like this after every single game where, okay, he plays, and then everybody goes, okay, let's see how he feels the next morning.
I know.
Don't you feel like this is going to be the way that it's going to be for Gabriel Landeskog for a little bit of time here? It's going to be, okay, he played, he looked good. Now let's see what the body says when he wakes up. I don't want to hear about how he felt after the game because you're still buzzing and charging on adrenaline. I want to hear how Landeskog feels in the morning because let's face it, he's not 25 years old again. And he's coming off an incredibly significant injury, one that, NHL players don't come back from. So no, not surprised.
Yeah, Normatex, ice bags, Tylenol,
all of it,
all that stuff, all of it, and just, more. Anything you can do.
Live in the Normatec. Like seriously, like can you walk with those things? Can you walk with that? Just like Normatec 24/7 for Gabriel Landeskog. Yeah. That's what he needs.
Do them like tearaway pants. Like he's got them on all day, walks into the arena and rips them off, and then he puts his hockey gear on and goes out to play.
Want to get out, spend a couple of minutes here talking about the Brandon Hagel hit on Alexander Barkov. Still no update on the severity of the injury. Oh, Randy Workman, rest of his career, Jeff. Yeah, you're not wrong talking about Landeskog. First of all, he's getting rung up. Now, what rung up means in the regular season is different than what rung up means in the playoffs. And I'll look at something like Trevor Zegras with Michael Rasmussen, the Anaheim-Detroit game from earlier this year. Zegras got 3 for that one. And that was the same. Like the call on this one is interference. Barkov doesn't have the puck. It's a dangerous hit. If Barkov had the puck, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. Now, Zegras got 3 games for that hit on Rasmussen. If we look at the playoff multiplier, or I guess multiplier is not the way to phrase it, the playoff subtractor, where it seems to be for every, if it's a 2-game suspension in the regular season, it's 1 game in the playoffs, then we're probably looking at a game here. It may depend on the severity of the injury as well. Man, the more that you look at that hit, you're just like, oh, that is such a bad one. and of all people, Alexander Barkov too. It's got to be one for sure, maybe even two. But then, I'll look at the subtractor and say to myself, well, minor penalties are still 2 minutes in the playoffs. Like, are we going to turn minor penalties into 1 minute power plays now? I do think, by the way, there should be 1 minute penalties, but that's for a different conversation. But I think
You
we're
draw
probably
blood on a
looking
high
at
stick, and it's just 2 in the playoffs.
2. Yeah, it's a minor. It's 2.
Yeah.
Minors are 1 minute. 1 minute minors. It's going to be 1, probably 2. I would imagine. I look at it. I look at it kind of like Zegers and Rasmussen.
Yeah, I think he's getting one here. I mean, it was kind of interesting. You had the conversation last week about can you have the hearing. It was Colby and Laz who sparked that without getting a suspension. And I was like, wondering right away, okay, could that be the case? No, this is going to be a suspension. That, especially Paul Maurice, that veteran answers that he's given here. It's not ruled out, but he's not cleared to play. We'll see what happens. It's like what we talked about with Byfield and Darnell Nurse, where it's like, if you're the LA Kings, I don't know, Byfield's not playing tonight. You had to do that. But yeah, he's getting one. He never had the puck. It's not like he was able to get the puck. It was the Tampa defender who plays that thing. He's not looking, unsuspecting. Yeah, it's a dirty hit. He deserves to get one here as well, I think.
Unsuspecting player, doesn't touch the puck. The infraction is interference. It's not like a charge. This isn't Rule 48 or anything like that. Barkov has the puck. It's a totally different conversation, and we're probably not even having the conversation because it's legal. But this one is not. This one is A, not good. B, the other sidebar conversation to have in this one is Florida Tampa the nastiest rivalry in the NHL right now? Because when it gets going, it gets nasty. And there are guys on both sides that are not shy about this one. Like the one thing about Tampa is, and you see this like right away, no matter who's on the ice or who gets hit. Okay? When you do something against a Tampa Bay Lightning player, right? Like late hit, big hit, legal hit or otherwise, everybody charges at you. Like it doesn't matter. It could be everybody from Victor Hedman to Anthony Cirelli. It doesn't matter. Yeah. They are all on you right away. And as has been pointed out, yeah, sure, at times it'll, cost them a penalty or two. Those are easy penalties to kill off. Those are the ones with the boys like that. Don't worry. Do that every time. We'll kill that penalty. We'll take that. It's a little ticky-tack penalties that you take. Those are the ones that are hard to kill. It's like 200 feet from your net. Oh, God, really? We're taking a penalty there? But Tampa takes those penalties where it's like that pack mentality of someone does something to one of our guys. Doesn't matter who's on the ice. We're all on them. Everybody. There is that expectation in Tampa. And they've been that way under John Cooper. That is one of the calling cards for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Zach.
Yeah. It's one of those ones that you kind of garner respect from your teammates, too, for stepping up and taking that penalty like you're talking about, where it's not only, okay, don't worry about it, but it's the guy who took the hit or whatever who's like, wow, this guy's got my back. Yeah. It allows you to feel more confident, more comfortable, more safe, and then also rally together behind those kinds of moments.
Okay, let's get to our Friday staple. Joining us on the sheet is the one and only Brian Burke. Joins us every Friday here on the broadcast. Berkey, how are you today, buddy?
How are you?
I am well. Before we get to the games and everything that we've seen so far, we're in Ottawa right now. Game 4 is on the horizon. I wanted to get take a couple of moments with you today to talk about Lou Lamoriello, who will not be back as the general manager of the New York Islanders. Now, I'm not going to take the next step and say that, this is it and we're never going to hear from Lou Lamoriello again. I don't believe that. I think that Lou Lamoriello still pops up somewhere doing something. He still wants to work. Your thoughts on the Islanders not renewing the contract of Lou Lamoriello?
Well, I owe Lou a lot. I met Lou in 1972. I went to play for him in 73. I've known him since then. I've remained close with him since then. I respect and admire and love Lou a lot. I probably have a better relationship with him than most people, but I don't know him that well. He's a distant guy, a wonderful man, been an influence on the game. I was talking about this earlier today, though. People don't realize his involvement with baseball. He's involved with the
Yes.
Yankees for years and years. He managed a baseball team in the Quebec Senior League.
Hmm.
He's a baseball star at Providence College, and then went on from there and managed the team. And I think he worked in the Cape League too, which is a
Yes.
prestigious league. So, guy's got a great background, and he's leaving giant footsteps behind.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Brookie. Do you know, is he part of the Cape Cod Baseball Hall of Fame?
I don't know about that.
It was like 10 or 15 years ago, and I'll check on that one. But when you mentioned Lou Lamoriello in baseball, that's kind of where my brain went. I still feel, it's just my opinion, that he is going to pop up somewhere in some capacity, that this is not the last we'll see of Lou Lamoriello. Agree, disagree?
Agree. He has too much to offer, even though he's getting up there in age. He's still sharp as
Mhm.
attack. He won't want to retire. He'll be a consultant somewhere, or the league will hire him. Someone will give him something.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so we're here in Ottawa and focusing a lot on the Maple Leafs, Ottawa Senators series. Right now, Maple Leafs up 3-0 over Ottawa. Your thoughts on what we've seen so far, where the emerging hero is either in a setup role with Max Domi in Game 2 or a game-winning goal in Game 3, Simon Benoit.
Well, unlikely contributions, unlikely heroes. I think that's a hallmark of a great team, is that they don't count on the same people to do the same thing every night. So they got a game winner with Max Domi. Next night it's Benoit. And then it'll be someone else in Game 4. That's the way this team is. It's not just Mitch Marner. Although the emergence of the core four for the first time in a couple of years has been refreshing. Looks like they figured out the playoff system. But the getting contributions from people you don't expect them from, it's like finding a wallet on the street with no ID that you can't return. It's like finding a wallet. You get some. You're counting on Mitch to score, counting on JT to score, Austin Matthews to score. When you're getting goals from guys that aren't on that list, that's a miracle.
You know, one of the interesting things to me about Benoit, and we tend to think of, like, look, I'll be blunt with you, like, the big picture of Simon Benoit this year was that Superman punch. It's one of the best hockey photographs we've seen in a long time. But he's a really effective defenseman. Kevin Bieksa has gone as far to call him the best number 6 defenseman in the NHL. And watching him live here last night, he's a better skater, Berkey, than people give him credit for. Like, you look at that Russian game too, and you watch him move the puck. Like, he's not just a big slow-footed guy that's there to cross-check players in front of the net. Like, I know that we're not going to expect him to score 10 goals every year. He only got 1 this season. But Simon Benoit is a better quote-unquote hockey player than I think a lot of people have given him credit for.
Yeah, I watched him. I see him a lot, obviously, going to Leafs games. I watched the game last fall where he had to win a race to a puck, a long race, like from his own blue line back to the goal line. And he pulled away on the forward by about 10 feet in that time. On a straight line, he's a really efficient skater, really fast. Not agile so much, not mobile. But on a straight line, he's a really gifted skater with good top-end speed. I like him. I think he's smart. He's tough. Good complimentary guy.
Not agile or mobile, but hostile, very much so. Okay. Before, there's a special email question I want to read for you here in a couple of seconds, but before we get there, was mentioning off the top of the show that, to me, the most impressive duo that we've seen so far is probably Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy in Minnesota. They seem to be doing whatever they want, whenever they want, against a really tough team in the Vegas Golden Knights. From the games that you've watched, any series, pick it. Who's been standing out for you a few games in early here?
Well, those two guys for sure. I think in Toronto, the unsung hero of this group is I think Mitch Marner's been terrific. I think he's really been sharp, really smart with the puck, making noticeable plays, good PK. I think he's been really good. I like the way that Toronto's playing a pack mentality. If you look at the TV, you can see all when they're defending, when Ottawa's attacking, you can see all 5 skaters for Toronto in the shop. They're all getting back. They're all forming the home plate defense. It's pretty impressive. Kirill Kaprizov has been unreal, like you said.
Yeah.
Matt Boldy is so much fun to watch. Both those guys. And Matthew Tkachuk has been dynamite in his first 2 starts.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Stolar stands out. They're getting the goalie. They're playing. Ottawa should not be down 3-0 in this series. They're getting the goalie.
It's interesting. Even last night watching the game, and you could have made the point beforehand, like this is the one game the Ottawa Senators needed to win, obviously. But Stolarz has been there. And I can't remember the last time where we said the Toronto Maple Leafs netminder was better than the other team's netminder, but here we are. And I've always been reminded by people like Kelly Rudy, you should never have to apologize, Berkey, for having a good goaltender. You know this from your run with Anaheim en route to the Stanley Cup and JS Giguère. Man, a goalie can help you out with a lot of mistakes and breakdowns.
Yeah, and what people don't realize is it changes the whole way your team plays. If you trust your goalie, you can cheat a little bit. You can leave a step earlier. You can take offensive chances you can't take otherwise. You can gamble and expose the guy on a big-time shot and not worry about it. So it changes the whole way you approach. It gives you an offensive, dynamic approach to the game because you can rely on your goaltender. And so you cheat. It's a great thing. Players will tell you. If they count on the goalie, they can play a completely different style of game.
Yeah. And you're seeing that now with the Maple Leafs. Okay, we do have an email question here for you, Berkey, from our Crispy Inbox. Time now for the Crispy Inbox presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 Portable Glass Air Fryer. Check this out.
Meet the first of its kind. The Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
Okay, we'll get Zach Phillips to read the question. More on the Crispy. It is an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake, air fry, and re-crisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, or store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the show description, and stay tuned for your chance to win a free Ninja Crispy. Zach Phillips, our email for Brian Burke today.
Yeah, here's today's email. Hey, Berkey and friends. Obviously, the PWHL is experiencing great success with their rule variations, brackets, the shorthanded goal rule and the pick your opponent rule, among others. But are there any rules that you personally would like to see being used/tried? Thanks for taking the time. Austin from Airdrie, Alberta.
You know, let's just extend that, not to the PWHL, but just to all of hockey. Are there any?
No.
I know you've lobbied for rules before. Anything else out there?
No. I think these rules really. I think they're really good. I think they work for our league. There's a uniqueness about them. They work in the new league. Our women get them. They think the jailbreak rule in particular is great. I think they're fabulous. I don't want to see them tried in the NHL. Not one.
The one thing that I thought you might go to on this one,
No.
even though Berkey, I'm talking about the bear hug off of the PWHL. No, I'm saying like I want to extend the question outside of just the PWHL rules, like just
go
other
ahead.
rules.
Go ahead, then. I'm
because
happy to talk about anything else.
Okay, the bear hug is one that you've talked about before. Now I know that it's actually technically not allowed, and technically it's holding. But the more that remember when you first started talking about this, I'm seeing this more and more, that officials don't call that hold anymore. You have a further thought on the bear hug's presence in the NHL now?
Yes, it exists. It's permitted now. When I played, which a long time ago, I know, I see you bite your tongue. When I played, if the defense was taking it in hard to the boards, he would put both his hands on your shoulder blades and guide you in. He'd still finish the check, but it wouldn't be the billiard board effect, billiard ball effect of boom, boom, one collision and the boards. He would go in with you. I see they're letting that go now, which is the bear hug rule, which is fine with me. I don't want any credit for it. I think they should change the rule, but if they're not going to allow this application, that's fine with me. It's going to save some injuries.
I hope that answers the question. The bear hug rule. Brian, I talked to Cyril Leader before you came on, and we talked about, the origins of the Ottawa Senators going back to the early 90s when Ottawa came in with Tampa. Here we are in Ottawa at the CTC, a new arena one day on the horizon. What are your memories of when the Ottawa Senators got awarded a franchise? That would have been 1992. It
was the same year I came in. Ottawa came in and Tampa came in, I believe. Yep. My first and only year in Hartford. The first game we played at the Ottawa Civic Center, they didn't have a box for us. Yeah. So I went to the PR guy. I said, where are we supposed to sit? He said, figure it out. Had a million things going on. So we found an old organist booth, threw the organ out into the corridor, threw out all the trash and stuff that was in there, and made our own booth. I remember thinking, this is the NHL, but it's a great little building. I love that building.
That would have been the old Corral Center once upon a time.
And they announced the goal. Terry Yake was on our team. And we got an assist, and they announced the assist by Teriyaki. Like, no, it's Terry Yake.
But that's what we used to always call him in our hockey pools, Berkey. I'm taking teriyaki. Taking teriyaki in the fourth round.
Good little player.
He was a nice little player. I like Terry Yake. Lisa Grinton in the chat. Ask Brian what he would do with Mitch Marner, sign or no sign. I guess that depends on the decimal point, but you talked about Marner and that pass yesterday. There's only a handful of other guys that can make that play at that speed with that awareness. Do you have a thought on Mitch Marner's future here?
I've answered that question before, Jeff. I'm going to answer it again happily. Sign. And if he goes above Austin Matthews, so what? The cap's going up as a percentage of the cap. I know he's a winger, and most of the highest paid guys are centers in D. But this guy's elite, special penalty killer, special player, special kid, wants to stay, sign him.
Berkey, we're starting to see a real sort of shifting here once again. I mean, it's the off season, so there's the coaching carousel. Coaches getting dismissed. We just saw with the New York Rangers. We saw with the Anaheim Ducks. There's some college coaching names. I want to get your thoughts on college coaches here, whether it's David Carl or Pat Ferschweiler or Western Michigan. I remember when the New Jersey Devils hired Lou Lamoriello. I still have the old Hockey News magazine when they hired him, and it was, from the Providence Friars. And at that time, there weren't a lot of people from, like, whether it's players or coaches or managers, like, people just weren't getting hired as much as they are now from college hockey. You've seen this change over the decades. And I wonder too, if this is going to be the summer of the college hockey hire. Can you describe what it was like when Lou first got hired to now, where players, coaches, everybody on a consistent basis are coming from college hockey?
Well, people laugh, but when I played in the American League, there were two Americans. Me and Tommy Gorence were the only two Americans. It's a big deal. You're American. It's a big deal back then. Now it's not. There's American players on every team. American coaches, assistant GMs, CMs, that's all gone now. But the college coaches are still a perception that a top college guy might not make a great pro coach. So the last guy, Hackstall, great coach, great guy, had some success, washed out now, waiting to get back in. We'll see. I think David Carl is going to get a job. I think Pat Ferschweiler is going to get a job. But I don't think you can go with a veteran team with a rookie American coach. You have to have a guy, you have to bring a team along with that.
A couple of more things here. One, first of all, Lisa, who asked the question, said, love Brian, saw him at the airport. He is very kind. Just as a curious sort of aside here, I mean, I've been with airports at you before. Like, you get hockey fans coming up to you all the time. Do you have a thought on sort of talking to people off the shift, or are you never off the shift when you're involved in hockey?
Well, first off, we're in the entertainment business. Those people ask for autographs and take selfies. They're fans. They buy tickets. They watch on TV. You can't not be nice to them. Now I have limits. I have time limits. Like if someone wants to stay and talk for an hour, we're not doing that. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone wants to say hello, take a photo, ask a question or two, I'm always ready for that. And I think those are the people that buy tickets. So you have to perpetuate the fan base. Just like I used to tell my players the same thing. You say yes to the autograph request. You say, which are almost gone now. No one wants autographs anymore. But the selfie, yeah, you say yes. Because that person buys tickets to watch on TV. That's how we build our base. So yeah, I'm glad she said I was kind. Don't tell people I'm nice, but happy to do it.
With behind the gruff exterior, Brian, we all know what's behind the gruff exterior. Brady Tkachuk is clearly playing. I mean, everybody's hurt by this time of year. I don't know. There's a difference between hurt and injured. But do you have a thought on, because you mentioned Matthew earlier, and he's been dynamic for Florida in the first couple of games here. Do you have a thought on what you're seeing from Brady Tkachuk with the Ottawa Senators, Berkey?
Yeah, he actually mouthed. He said to the camera, not realizing it was on camera. He said, "I think my groin." I think that's what he said. So he's clearly battling. That's what those kids do, though. The Tkachuks, they're both hurt. They're both banged up. And you wouldn't know it watching them play. They're warriors. So that apple did not fall far at all from the tree. It fell. It was touching the tree when it fell.
Who's the one player, or maybe there are a couple of players that come to mind, where you said to yourself, I can't believe this guy's playing right now, from your playoff experience?
For me, Teemu. Teemu Selanne was all banged up. You know, he didn't get hit that often, but when he did, he got hit hard. He had a bad knee when we signed him. Scored 48 goals and won the cup the next year. I thought Teemu played hurt a lot. The guy that was most banged up I ever had that's played like a warrior, Sammy Paulson. Sammy Paulson is the toughest Swede you ever saw in your life.
Loved him.
Sammy Paulson, in the last 2 rounds of the playoffs, could not practice. He took every day off, and the game would start, and he'd go to war. Sammy Paulson was a warrior. Viking. We call him our Viking.
I thought you could make a case for Conn Smythe for him in that 2007 year. I thought he was that effective for you guys. He was that, and that whole line with Moen and Niederreiter was one of the best third lines I think we've ever seen in the playoffs, Berkey. I really mean that.
Niedermeyer, not Niederreiter.
What did I say? Niederreiter?
Yeah, the Robbie Niedermeyer.
Yeah, sorry, Rob Niedermeyer, Scott's brother.
Yeah, they were all Travis Moen. Travis, they all mentioned Robbie. Robbie was a great player. Robbie was a great playoff player. But Travis Moen was an unsung member of that team. He was very critical to our cup, and Sammy was a warrior.
He sure was. We'll end on this one. What do you expect here on Saturday in Ottawa, Game 4? I know Maple Leafs fans all have, visions of a sweep. Marner last night saying, obviously, the fourth one is the hardest win to get in hostile ground in Ottawa. What do you expect on Saturday, Berkey?
Well, I think Ottawa deserves a much better fate. I'm really proud of the way they played. They've been really good. They had a great finish to get in. God bless them. If this is the last game, it was a great year. I don't think it is. I think they'll figure out a way to win one, but I think they're going home after that.
All right. On that, we'll let you get to your weekend. Brian, as always, love Civilian Fridays, and we will catch up in 7 days, my friend. Thanks, Steph. See ya. There he is, the great Brian Burke, joining us here Fridays on The Sheet. Zacharoo. A lot this over the past couple of days here. I want to get to the games ahead. So I'll remind you, as always, The Sheet is powered by FanDuel, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. And we got 3 games tonight. All these series are 2-0. Washington in Montreal, Zach. Caps lead this one 2-0. Hurricanes at the Prudential Center. Hurricanes lead this one 2-0. Los Angeles Kings in Edmonton against the Oilers. They lead the series 2-0. The Oilers are changing goaltenders. Out of all these 3 games, Washington, Montreal, okay, Montreal's first kick out of here. If they go down 3 bagel, you can still say, oh, they're facing off against the Washington Capitals, top team in the province. Carolina Hurricanes facing off against a banged up, even though they're getting reinforcements, New Jersey Devils, who are still, of course, without the services of Jack Hughes, their number 1 center. But they should have some returning defensemen tonight in Luke Hughes, Brendan Dillon, and we'll see about Jonas Siegenthaler. But to me, it does seem as if this is situation critical for the Edmonton Oilers. I know the old saying, you're never in trouble until you lose at home. But lose at home tonight, you're down 3 Cobb to a team that can play stingy hockey. Pickard is in for Skinner. I don't want to say it's desperation, but there's part of me that looks at it and says, if you see Pickard at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the series, if you see Pickard, it means something bad has happened to the Oilers. And it looks very much like something bad has happened to the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, that's the one for me tonight that stands out amongst everything else. Like, if the Caps go up 3-0, and it's not to diminish anything that the Devils or the Canadians, have done this year, but if the Canes and the Caps go up 3-0, it's like, okay, that falls in line with what I thought could have happened here. If the Kings go up 3-0, it's like that's not supposed to happen. I thought the Kings would win this series. I think there was a lot of people starting to go on the other side of that one. I know you and Wish had the heated little back and forth probably about 2 weeks ago about the way that thing could play out. But, you know, it's not supposed to be 3-0, right? Like, that's where it starts to go. And the other thing, too, you go to Pickard here tonight. What if you lose this game 4-1? Oh, you know, who goes in that next game? Then there's questions about that, and then that's a story and a distraction, and then the conversations around Bouchard and Nurse could get louder and louder and louder, and then it's a really uncomfortable situation going into game 4 with your backs against the wall.
It's must win. It's must win for Edmonton.
Must win.
And I think if you're an All Block, you're not even thinking about game 4. And if we lose game 3, and what's that going to mean for a game 4 decision? I don't think you go anything further than opening puck drop tonight.
Yeah.
Like you're the Edmonton Oilers, that is all you think about. And of course, eyes will be on Connor McDavid, because if there's one player in the NHL, and maybe Edmonton has 2, they certainly do actually, that can single-handedly change a game and or a series. Like, this has all the markings of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, get Edmonton back into this series. Like, it's on them. We can say whatever we want about goaltending. We can say everything we want about the blue line. They have 2 nuclear missiles that can single-handedly, individually, get a team back into a series. And here we are. No pressure.
Yeah. You know,
by the way,
you know, it's actually interesting.
By the way, Schwab mentions in the chat, will Edmonton find a way to one-up the harmonica anthem? We didn't spend any time on that, and that was awesome. I love that. Give me that all day. Like, I'm not a big anthem guy to begin with. I understand why the anthems are there, and I know the fans love it. I know I'm in the minority on this one. I get that. But even like a cynical prick like me, I love that. I thought that was really cool. I really dug it.
I liked the build up to it to game 2 as well, because the Kings came out flying and everyone was like, it's the harmonicas. We have Biz tweeting like harmonica watch. I texted DJ on the morning of game 2. I'm like, are the harmonicas being played tonight? He's like, oh God, like, this is a story. And then I see DJ tweeting about them later in the day as it goes to it. And like, if you're Edmonton, if you're in the room and you're the coaching staff and everything, it's all business. If you are game ops for the Oilers going into tonight's game, there has to be a part of you that's like, let's knock this out of the park. You know, like, it's an entertainment business, like Berkey said. Let's have some fun with this, and let's one up the harmonicas. But I mean, in the least serious fashion possible here, Jeff, I want to ask you, what do you do? What in your mind one ups the harmonicas? Like, what does that? The bongos, like Nashville, was one.
Ukulele?
That got one up by the harmonica.
Have we had ukuleles yet? Is that where we're at now on dueling anthems? What's gonna outduel our harmonica? Banjo. Nick Caroli with the banjo. Banjo, ukulele.
Banjo, yeah. Tiny violin.
That's where we're at. Harmonica, anthems, and Matthews Balding. That's been the first week of the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's where we're at in the year 2025 for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Xylophone, bagpipes. Wow, what a spot we're in here.
Pots would be cool. Here we go. Well, we'll see what happens tonight. Again, like yesterday, I want to welcome aboard a new sponsor here for the playoffs here on the sheet, and that is our friends at Budweiser. Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for playoffs, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your buds. Phone a bud, text a bud, ping a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on the playoffs. After all, the playoffs are the most wonderful time of the year. Make them count. When it's springtime, it's go time, Zach. When it's springtime, it's go time. And speaking of go time, it's time for us to go. Not before we thank a number of people. None of this could be possible, Zach, first of all, without you. And man, you must be burning the candle at both ends here between all the pre and the post and doing streeters and late nights with the Maple Leafs. Zach Phillips, thanks as always for your hard work and efforts here on the program. The great Nick Caroli playing the keyboards behind me right now, making sure the shot is perfect right now. And Amal Delic, our fearless leader around these parts. And speaking of leader, thanks to Cyril Leader for stopping by, the president and CEO of the Ottawa Senators, to say nothing about Brian Burke, our Friday staple here on the broadcast. I do have to make special mention here as well. A big thank you to the Ottawa Senators for making this space available to us over the past couple of days, the entire PR staff as well, including Ian Mendez, the VP of Communications, and also Aaron Campbell. Thanks to them both for making things go so seamless here in the nation's capital. And, I got a couple of DMs and texts about this. It was really great to hear Mendez on the show yesterday. I know he's doing great work as the VP of comms here for the Ottawa Senators, but I think, Zach, I can speak safely for all hockey fans. We miss hearing from Ian Mendez. He was always such a go-to Ottawa reporter. When anything in Ottawa happened, it's like, all right, call Mendez. He has it. He's on it. So thanks to Ian Mendez for helping out over the next couple of days. And thanks to Nick Alberga, my Popcorn Row cellmate last night. It was fun hanging out with Nick watching the game here last night. Anyway, 3 games on the go around the NHL tonight. Enjoy it. The sheet returns Monday at our normal start time of 3 o'clock. Morning Cup of Hockey on Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Daily Face-Off live at noon. And then me and Zach with the sheet Monday at 3. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy the weekend. Are we going to see a sweep tomorrow? We'll see. Talk to you on Monday. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Face-Off. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.